Welcome to The Commute, a Bible study podcast designed to turn your commute into an opportunity to grow in your faith. Whether you're sure of what you believe or you're not sure what to believe, this podcast is designed to help you better understand who Jesus is, what the Bible's all about, and how that applies to your life today. I'm your host, Pastor Matt, and I'm excited to dive into this week's episode of The Commute.
Well, hey friends, welcome back to another Commute episode. I am thrilled to be with you this week, and we are extra excited to have Irene back with us again this week for our conversation. Thanks for joining us, Irene.
Oh yeah, of course.
This is kind of fun. It's kind of becoming a regular thing now. You're a Commute regular. So this week, you will be starting a new gospel as part of your gospel readings, if you are doing those, and you're going to jump into the gospel according to St. John. So we've decided that for our conversation this week, we are going to just zero in on the first part of John chapter 1. You know, sometimes we will do book overviews or talk about some larger themes or give you some background. This week, we're just going to take some time walking verse by verse through John chapter 1 through 18. So if you have access to the text in some way, would encourage you to get that in front of you, either in a hard copy or on a mobile device or a laptop or something like that. However it's easiest for you. I think that'll be a big help as we talk today. So I guess without any further ado, Irene, what do you say? We just walk through it.
Let's go for
verse
it.
By verse. So why don't you take verse 1 for us?
Yeah. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Awesome. Who is the Word, Irene?
Jesus and God.
Uh-huh. So we're talking about Jesus and God, and what do we discover about Jesus here?
I mean, I think, first of all, too, it kind of reminds me of Genesis 1:1. That starts with in the beginning as well, and I think shows the power of the Word of God and the voice of God, too. How he said, let there be light, and everything came into being. Like he has power over everything, and he now is sending his son to be his word made flesh. So I think that's just pretty cool, and how they're all connected so intricately and closely as well.
I think that's huge. I think the parallels between John and Genesis are very strong, especially here. And I think it's helpful for us to consider that we are getting kind of a zoomed out, transcendent picture of Jesus. This is kind of like a cosmic, as close to like total view of Jesus as you can get in just a few words. And I think by tying it back to Genesis 1 really just takes us all back to the beginning to see Jesus as the creator God who is God and was there with God the Father before all of this began. So Jesus not only is the Word who became flesh and dwelt among us, as we'll get to in a few verses, but he is the God who is present at the beginning and is involved in the work of all creation. So I guess I'll take verse 2 now.
Yeah.
Okay. This is my Pastor Casey translation here. I'm not working with the English right now. This one was in the beginning with God. Or maybe the English says he was in the beginning with God.
Yeah, he was in the beginning with
Okay.
God.
Yeah, just reiterating Jesus' primacy and his presence with God the Father at the beginning of creation. Any additional comments?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's forge ahead. What do you say? You take verse 3, Irene?
Yeah. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made.
Awesome.
Yeah, it just goes back to that, creation account too, that, he was there before the foundation of the world, and everything that we see today is, God's divine creation, which is pretty cool.
The word all things really stands out to me, that it is everything. And it's not like he was even absent from parts of it. Without him was not anything made. that has been made. Like, he's involved in it all. I guess my mind jumps to Colossians 1. There's a lot of similar language about Jesus being the ruler over all things and in all things. And I think this is kind of helpful maybe for our modern mindset that maybe is really good at compartmentalizing a little bit and sort of keeping Jesus and faith things in their own little box. And we think that we can sort of keep the boxes neat and tidy and they don't necessarily have to touch. And I think what we see when we read the Bible is that really Jesus touches everything. He was involved in everything at the beginning of creation and continues to be involved in all things even today.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, everything we see around us, just creation in general, it's pretty amazing to see, and you can't help but be in awe sometimes. So yeah,
absolutely. All right, verse 4 now. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. That's kind of profound. And I mean, it sort of tracks if you think about it. Like, if he's involved in creating all things, like what happens when God creates things, they live, right? I'm reminded of God taking Adam and breathing into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being, we'll sometimes translate it, or became a living soul, and that it's by God's doing, by his breathing, that everything comes to life. In God is life. That's how things live. That's what sticks out to me.
Yeah.
So verse 5 now.
The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. I feel like, too, that can go along with, like, darkness and death as well, like, as contrasting to light. Like, he's the light, he's life, but we're surrounded by that death and that darkness. And it's always the light that wins in the end, but we can get caught up in that darkness definitely sometimes. But yeah, I think that's a great verse as well, that nothing can overcome that light.
For sure. And again, this is just all connected back to Genesis 1. Like, right. what is God's first act in creation? He says, "Let there be light." And it is the light that overcomes the darkness, the void, the formlessness. So you could even say, like, the chaos. Before God created all of this, and the light comes piercing through all of that and brings order. It brings, just sensibility. Like you can start to make sense out of stuff. The light, it banishes the darkness and it reveals what's truly there. And this is a huge theme in John. It's going to pop up numerous times. You'll even hear Jesus say that he is the light of the world. And just to conceive of Jesus as the light, I think is something just really fascinating to ponder. And there's a depth to it that's really kind of mind-blowing, I think. So be on the lookout for more light and dark themes as you go through John. Verse 6 now. Actually, I might just take 6 through 8.
Yeah, go for it.
So a man became, or there was a man, sent from God, a name to him, John. Quick note, this is John the Baptist. This is not the John that this gospel is attributed to. So this John the Baptist, came for a witness so that he might bear witness concerning the light, so that all might believe through him. That one, meaning John, was not the light, but came so that he might bear witness concerning the light. So now we get just a brief aside about John the Baptist, and I think it's great. how John's purpose is mentioned here. He comes for a witness, so that he might bear witness about the light. He's the one who just comes and testifies to the light, talks about it. And he's sent not by himself, not because of his own desires, but he's sent by God. So God has sent John the Baptist, who we're going to see pop up again later in chapter 1, simply to bear witness about the light. Pretty cool stuff. And just to be clear, in case anyone was confused, that one was not the light. And I guess one last thing I wanted to mention is in verse 7 there, the purpose why he bears witness about the light is so that all might believe through him, the light. Belief is another monumental theme in John. The whole purpose of this gospel is articulated in John chapter 20, where it says, "These things are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, and that by believing in him you might have life in his name." Like, the whole reason this text is here for us, for you, is so that you might believe in Jesus, who is the light. So there will be numerous examples where people do believe in Jesus, and numerous examples where people do not believe in Jesus. That's kind of the end of the ball game here, is do you believe in Jesus? Sorry, Irene, I'm getting kind of carried away with my own thoughts here. What do you think?
I think too, just from that, like, just as John is bearing witness about the light, like, God calls us to do that as well. And like it's talked about later on, but we shine that light as well to the world, and we can't let that or hide it under a bushel, or that song, this little light of mine. But it's that light that we have as a gift, as from grace, and like that's part of our mission as believers. So yeah,
absolutely.
Should we go on? Or?
Yeah.
All right. I'll do like a few verses here.
Yeah, go for it.
The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. Yeah, I feel like, like Jesus, I guess in general, he's very countercultural. So that kind of goes along with that, how, you can see people, certain people despise him, but yet there are those who follow him too. And, not everyone's going to believe, but yet he came to save everyone, no matter what, which is, I think, pretty amazing.
Right. I'm struck again by the middle of 9 there, which, enlightens everyone, or all humanity. Yeah. That there really is an inclusive scope to Jesus' work, that he comes not just for a select few, but he comes for the world. And even though he's the one who made the world, and like the world is like his stuff, his own people don't receive him necessarily. Yeah. And this is, we've been talking about this, I feel like, for a long time now in the past few sermons, about just the problem of, God's coming for the whole world, but there are parts of the world that reject him. And this is the major conflict that arises in the gospel accounts, is Jesus enters the world, and there are some who believe in him, and others who don't. Yep. Yeah,
and if you jump to chapter 3 too, everyone knows John 3:16, and then the verse after too, that God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. So I feel like that, again, is reiterated throughout John.
Yeah. It's huge. We should make kids memorize verse 17.
Yes, I always think that one is so huge too, and everyone knows 16, but yeah, that's true.
We're going to have to put that on our to-do list. Yeah, it's good. All right, I'll take verse 11, and we'll just see how far we get.
Okay.
To his own he came, or his own things he came, and his own people did not receive him. But as many as did receive him, he gave to them authority to become children of God, to those who believed in his name. So again, belief factors really huge here, and those who believe are given the authority to become children of God, brought into the family, given a new identity simply by belief in the name of Jesus. Pretty cool stuff. And then I guess 13 is pretty well connected. Those, not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of the will of God. They were born. Yeah. So yeah, birth again. That's another kind of theme that recurs. And you notice this where I feel like we're already starting to say this. John is kind of interesting in the way he tells the gospel story. It's really less of like a line and more of like a spiral around John 1 through 18. And it's kind of maybe like a spiral staircase that's sort of like building up around it. So you're kind of circling around the same things, but you are getting somewhere. Like you're getting to greater understanding, greater faith. And sometimes it's a little difficult or at least for my sort of Western linear mind to track with where John's going sometimes, because he does walk circles around things. But I think by walking circles, you can see the same thing from different perspectives, and each time walk away with deeper understanding.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Why don't we do, let's just do 14 through the end, Irene, and we'll see what thoughts come.
Yeah. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. And then this is in parentheses, but John bore witness about him and cried out, "This was he of whom I said, he who comes after me ranks before me, because he was before me. For from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, the only God, who is at the Father's side. He has made him known."
Awesome. So sight starts to factor in a little bit more here in these later verses. It's kind of cool to sort of juxtapose this with the Old Testament, how really no one could see God and live. Like the closest I think anyone ever came was Moses asking to see God's glory in some of the later chapters in Exodus, and the Lord tells him, "Well, here's what I'll do. I'll put you behind the cleft of the rock while I pass by. I'm going to shield you, and you can see my back, but like that's it. Like no one can see God and live." Well, now Jesus has come, and we get to see the fullness of God. Jesus makes God known clearly. Like, you want to know what God the Father looks like? You look at Jesus. You want to know the character of God? Look at Jesus. You want to see the love of God in action? Look at Jesus. Jesus will say things like, "I and the Father are one," or "If you have seen me, you have seen the Father." Yeah. So this is gonna surface again and again. Really cool stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like, just, that nearness that Jesus came and experienced what we experienced too. I think that's also very powerful, how yet God is still able to show his glory through that vulnerability, that human flesh, like just of Jesus, of God humbling himself in that way. I think it's, the ultimate example of love and just humility, which is so powerful and, again, countercultural to what most people think. But, I think that's very powerful as well.
Yeah, I think verse 14 maybe doesn't hit us with a whole lot of freight, because if we've spent significant time like in the Christian community, in the church, we just sort of take for granted, oh yeah, God became incarnate in the person of Jesus, and that's just how it is. But to conceive for just a second of like God becoming flesh, like that would have been offensive to a strict monotheist, someone from a Jewish background. Like God is just kind of other. He is unique. He is set apart. He's holy. And to take on the stuff of this flesh seems kind of offensive. And there are strict monotheists even today who find it very offensive that God might take on flesh. And this is really the big stumbling block for a lot of the Muslims I've had interactions with. The whole idea of God taking on human flesh and becoming one of us is just almost unfathomable. But I think we see, from this gospel account that there is tremendous benefit in God coming to be human and to take on flesh and to, as the verb says, I think very often English translates it as dwell among us. It is more literally translated make his tent or tabernacle among us. That just as God's presence was located in the tabernacle or in the temple, now the presence of God is located in the tent of Jesus' flesh. That's where you find the presence of God, and that's where we receive tons of benefit. When Jesus goes to the cross, he goes in our flesh, and when he rises from the dead, he rises in the flesh too, and I think brings tremendous hope for people like you and me and all of you who continue to live in this flesh.
Yeah, and going along with what you were saying too, just that how it's for some people it seems weird to fathom that God would come down on earth like that. And I think about too, being born in a manger. That's literally what animals feed out of, and it's what on earth? But that's, I don't know, it's just, it's hard to fathom, but it shows his true love for us. And again, going along with what you were saying, how it used to be just that holy place in the tabernacle, but when in the account of the crucifixion, that curtain temple is torn in two. So there's no more separation. He is now here with us, living in us. There's no, Jesus is the way. He's here with us. And he's again transcending everything. And I don't know. It's
great.
Breaking down barriers and making the way.
For sure. So, you all are going to have a lot of fun as you go through the rest of John. And our encouragement to you is to return back to the first chapter and see how everything else you're reading is connected to this, and how these first 18 verses really shed a lot of light on everything else that you're going to experience in this gospel. You're going to experience it as pretty circular. A lot of things are going to repeat. A lot of things are going to be interconnected. And as you go into the rest of the gospel too, bring this kind of cosmic transcendent view of Jesus with you, and recognize that not everyone else in the story is going to have the kind of perspective you have. You're actually in a privileged spot to have this kind of introduction. So recognize that. And I guess the last encouragement I would give to you is that all of this is here so that you might believe in Jesus, and that by believing in Jesus, you might have life in his name. So our prayer for you as you move through the rest of this gospel is that you would believe even more deeply, more strongly in Jesus, who is the life and who is the light of men. So thanks again, Irene, for joining us for this conversation. And we look forward to seeing you next week, friends, right here on The Commute.
Thanks for checking out this episode of The Commute. For more information on The Commute or to join the Commute Bible reading plan, simply download the Bethlehem Church Live mobile app or go to BethlehemChurchLive/The Commute.